This weekend on the original Rochester Press Box.
I'm Harry Gibbs, and Doug Marone's seat is getting hot.
I'm John Doss from 13 WHAM Sports, and I'm going to tell you why I'm rethinking the morals of my fantasy football team.
And I'm Mike Catalana. It's a loss for Rochester, but the right thing happened in Minnesota.
And I'm Bill Pucko. The Rochester Jeffersons are relevant again. Join us this weekend on the original Rochester Press Box. Welcome to the original Rochester Press Box, everybody. I'm Bill Pucko, and happy to be joined this week by John Doss, who's sitting in for our foundation member, John DiTullio. John, nice to have you back.
That's a one-for-one John for John trade there.
Drop the H.
All right, yes. We'll have to see if it worked out later.
Look, he works with me, but I am not responsible for the Sox.
All right.
You said we were on neutral ground, so I'm not holding back from Mike.
Well, that's
tonight.
why I'm sitting in the middle. Okay. Mike Catalana, welcome back.
Good to be back.
And Harry Gibbs joins us from iHeartRadio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look, I think they did a great job this week. It's the only time I'll offer an opinion on the thing. The College Football Playoff Committee did a couple of things. They dropped Florida State. They kept Alabama out. How do you think this committee is doing so far, about a month out?
I actually think they're doing a good job because of the fact that they're staying in a week-to-week world, which is what they should do. This is going to change from week to week, so change with week to week. This is how we view sports on a very constant, instant basis, and I'm glad they're doing the same. It doesn't bother me where teams are right now. It matters where they end up in the end, and I think in the end, we're going to be pretty happy with the 4 teams.
Can you put Florida State behind a once-beaten Oregon?
Yeah, I think you can, because you should not just assume, well, you're undefeated, so you should stay higher up. I mean, they do have the Notre Dame win, which at the time was maybe even looks a little better than it is now, and I guess they beat Clemson, but they're undefeated. If you allow an undefeated team to stay high just because they're undefeated, teams are going to schedule for that, and they're going to, out of conference, going to have weaker schedules, going to say we might as well stay undefeated. I don't mind it. I like the transparency like Harry's talking about. I like the idea you know right where everybody is, and a team like Alabama. Now, by the time this airs, they'll have played, but they know they win. They're in the 4. They'll be there.
And you know what I like? I like that it shows a willingness, or rather unwillingness, to just load up SEC teams in this Final Four by leapfrogging. See what I did there? TCU jumping Alabama. It shows to me this week-to-week approach that you're talking about. TCU lost 4 weeks ago to Baylor. It used to be, and Mike and I were talking about this, when you lost at the midway point of the season or later, you were done. So the fact that TCU lost just 3 games ago and they're still now in the top 4, to me, I like this week-to-week approach.
The Baylor people aren't happy, though.
No, they're not.
Hey, I just think this is the way it should be done. It's the first time I think sports has been like society views sports on a very instant basis. I think that's okay. We don't always have to use past and what we see the future being like. Right now, TCU's in the top 4. They may not be there in 4 more weeks. It's just, it is what it is.
And I think it could have a ripple effect a little bit. I think people are going to enjoy this openness and them talking about the voting. I think eventually it's going to extend to the basketball tournament. I think you're going to see at a certain point they start coming out with what the brackets are. And you're going to know it with a few weeks left. And I think then, maybe not necessarily, but who the 64 teams are. So everybody kind of knows where they are. No huge surprises. I think people would enjoy that.
And like every year, we can see Syracuse drop from a 1 seed down to a 6, 7, 8 seed.
You see, I did an unfinished business a few weeks ago that I didn't like them coming out on a weekly basis because it slotted teams. And I thought once you get ahead of them, you can't pass them unless the committee has shown me that they're better than that.
Yeah.
We saw that wasn't the case this week.
It's true. And look at it this way. If you're in the mix and you win out, you're going to be in the Final Four. It's almost guaranteed. It'll be very difficult for any of the top, I'll say 8, 9 teams to not win out and not make it in there, which maybe Baylor is the one. We'll see how it is. But you know teams are going to lose. I think it's going to be great.
Buffalo Bills in the NFL in our next segment of the original Rochester Press Box.
And you don't need to be Native American to realize it is offensive. And it's not politically correct. It's the right thing to do.
He was an idiot for throwing him that pitch. The guy's phenomenal. He had no reason to give him anything, especially a fastball to hit.
It's simply that these two guys, Ronaldo and Tom Brady, are too good looking.
I like it, just don't admit to it.
Everybody wants to hate on the best in the world. You know, he's here to stay, and he wants to build something big time.
The bottom line is, still nobody's going to like A-Rod.
Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. We're talking professional football, the Buffalo Bills. Interesting situation because we tape on Wednesday and we air on the weekend. So this game is completed already, so we can only look really stupid as we pick the Bills-Dolphins game. What do you see happening, Mike?
Well, I thought it was a really entertaining game. I thought there were some good moments. There were some moments that weren't so good. A few things surprised me. A few things I knew were going to happen. As we're sitting here on Wednesday and I'm getting ready to go down there and enjoy the game down in Miami, you know, last week I was the lone wolf here. Well, you guys weren't here. Picking Kansas City to beat the Bills. No, I didn't want. I wanted to be wrong, and I ended up being right. But I have a feeling about the Bills this week. They've done well against Tannehill. They've done well against Miami. Both teams are in that exact same spot. They're both 5-4, coming off tough losses. But I think the Bills was even uglier. They were at home. They had the lead against a team that I think they're as good or better than, whereas Miami lost a tough one against a team that's right now number 1 or 2 in the NFC. I'm taking the Bills to win this game by 4 points.
All right, and they're getting 5. How do you see it, Harry?
Brandon Albert's out, left tackle for the Miami Dolphins. I think
Our
it's
guy.
Yeah.
a huge miss for the Dolphins. I think it's a major hole that they're going to be unable to fill. I think they're moving over the rookie to left tackle, and he's going to get devoured by whether it's Mario Williams or Jerry Hughes, or it's a stunt and Marcel Darius is flying at him. The front four is going to kill the Dolphins. And Tannehill, yes, he has these nice stretches, but it's like a lot of with these young quarterbacks. You see the perfect pocket. You muddy that thing up a little bit, and he starts making mistakes. I think it'll be an ugly game. I think the Bills' offense will keep it close. The lack of a run game, maybe a little bit of Kyle Orton sprinkling in his, Kyle Orton-ness in there. I think it's a 17-13 ball game, but I think the Bills will find a way to grudge it out.
All right, I wasn't sure where he was going with that. John, what do you see?
We're sprinkling in a little Kyle Orton. In the words of John Clayton at ESPN, the Bills might win, but they might not. You know what? The NFL is such a week-to-week league, and we wonder now if there's any carryover. We've seen that this year. Teams, Cincinnati, they'll crush one team, they'll come back, and they'll drop by 40 on national TV. That said, the Bills bounced back from an ugly win against Minnesota to beat the Jets. But it was an ugly win against Minnesota. I think that ugly loss against Kansas City, a game that they needed to win, is going to come back to haunt them. And I think the Dolphins win this game.
That was like a Princess Bride argument,
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'll take Miami. Because I don't see a single good reason to pick Buffalo in here because Miami lost just as tough a game as the Bills did.
Yeah.
If they're coming home on the short week. That's all I base that on. Give us another game.
Well, one quick thing I wanted to add. I think we can all agree that was a terrible call in the game, wasn't it?
You won't let this one go. That's
Are you
pretty
the
good,
only one
though.
that picked the Bills? Are you the only one that picked the
No,
Bills?
and I picked
Oh, you guys
I'm the
both
only one
did.
that picked
Okay.
Miami, right?
I picked
No.
Miami.
Okay, then this is this side against us. All right, give me another game.
For no reason at all other than they are coming off just an abysmal performance when they last played. I'm going to take Cincinnati and the points at New Orleans. I think New Orleans probably win the game, but I think the Bengals stay within. I think it's a 7-point line.
What do you got?
I'm going to go with the Packers at home against the Eagles. I think they're giving up a lot. They have to win by 5 or more. I think Rodgers has a touchdown or more win in him. I just think he's been too lethal. And let's see Mark Sanchez go into Lambeau, primetime spot in a way, the 425 game for us at least. And I don't know. I think it's a tough spot for Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, geez, between that one and the Patriots-Colts games, that's a couple of nice matchups this week.
I don't think I picked the spread for the Bills. I'd like Miami to cover this game. Aldon Smith is back for the Niners. San Francisco shall rise again. They're giving 5 against the Giants. I like the Niners.
I'm a big believer in and it hasn't paid for me at all this year so far, but teams that get really beaten bad one week, coming
He
back the
continues
next.
to be a believer.
I mean, is anybody playing worse than the Bears? So I'll give 3.5 to the Vikings at Chicago. So I got the Bears. The Crew is taking the Bills plus 5, so it's 3-2 for the Bills. And they've also got the Patriots getting 3 points at Indianapolis, the Brady versus Luck game, which I think we'll discuss in a little bit when we come back. The Distillery sponsoring our Like It or Not segment. That's next on the original Rochester Press Box. This segment of the Rochester Press Box is brought to you by The Distillery. 4 convenient locations, The Distillery, your choice destination for Sunday brunch with great food and drink specials, plus all of the games. The Distillery, a Best of Rochester award winner. Tap into good times at The Distillery. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box, our Like It or Not segment brought to you by The Distillery. Like it or not, Mike, you got Luck versus Brady this week.
I think this is awesome to see this because now Brady is, the old guy and Luck is the new guy coming up. He probably feels like, wait a minute, Colts, I have my time here with Manning, and they go back and forth. I love the way Luck plays. I like him in this, but I think this is the kind of thing that motivates Brady, don't you think? Isn't he the guy who's saying, like, okay, young guy, like, now this is my extra motivation. He always comes up with something, not that he needs it against the Colts, but in any game, when it's a big game, and Brady is one of the guys, I hate to say it, but I'm taking Brady in the matchup. So I love Luck long term. I like Brady this week.
He's going to move over at some point, right? Luck is the next big thing. Right?
Absolutely. And you look at what Luck's doing, it's a lot like Peyton Manning used to do. He's got a 55-year-old Reggie Wayne. He's turned T.Y. Hilton into a Pro Bowler. But we always like to talk about how Peyton Manning didn't have success against Tom Brady and the Patriots. How about we talk about Tom Brady always having success against the Indianapolis Colts? He's 8-3 in his career. Andrew Luck is the future. Tom Brady is playing so well right now, I'd have to pick the Patriots.
Teams change from year to year so much, though. It's almost like those statistics don't mean a whole lot to me. John,
but the Bills will tell you, and we know in Western New York, when Tom Brady owns you, you can't pick against him.
But he's always had a better team. He's supposed to win that number of games.
True.
If the Bills ever get to be a par with them, maybe we'll see how they do.
Brady
but that's all beside the point. I know, we'll probably never see
Brady
that.
will be 55.
John, like it or not, credibility to the report that Jameis Winston might have shaved some points in the game.
Ugh, I don't like it. It's football. It's difficult to do in football. Basketball, you can talk about doing it. It seems a little easier. I don't know how one person, even the quarterback, could affect point shaving. It is such a minute thing when you're talking about the difference of 2 or 3 points. I just don't understand how one player could do that.
And wasn't the whole thing that he was supposed to be losing at halftime so his friend could win a $5,000 bet? First of all, I guess there's bets like that. I don't know enough
Florida
about
State's been
gambling.
losing at halftime a few times this year.
Yeah, and the thing
That's
was,
their MO.
Winston was really bad in that first half, and then they came back. But they've done it a few times this year. So the credibility of the report, I don't know. Things get thrown out there, and then other people start picking it up.
When do we raise TMZ to the point of credibility? I mean, they originate this report, but they've been right on a lot of stuff.
I don't know. The Tiger Woods story, maybe that's when it started. All the success they had reporting on that.
But this is such a big issue to me, and it's largely just kind of swept aside because we're not buying into the source. It'd be a neat story otherwise.
I just think that like we've been talking about, it's so hard with football to really make that connection and feel like it's a legitimate points shaving situation. And a lot of these stuffs come down to what does Jameis Winston have to gain in these situations, and it just seems like so little.
What did he have to gain at the supermarket?
Crab legs, though.
Yeah.
Delicious.
And scraping in the student union, where's the upside to that?
Yeah.
Harry, like it or not, Kobe Bryant now has a brand new record. He's got 13,000 plus misses in his NBA career.
Listen, I guess I like it. I mean, he's a great player. So if we have to talk about it like, haha, Kobe, you missed all these shots. He has the ring. He can hold up the hand filled with rings if someone has something to say about all those missed shots. And I think even Michael Jordan has come out and said, I missed 9,000 shots or whatever it was.
What did Jim Boeheim, what did Mike Krzyzewski, what did they all tell us after they crossed their thresholds? I coached a lot of games.
Yeah.
You miss a lot of shots when you take a lot of shots. Kobe is still a 46% career shooter. Jordan was a 49% career shooter. I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson has the most strikeouts, right? I think it's Brett. Is it
Brett
Favre
Favre
that has
way more interceptions
He
than
had the
everybody.
most touchdowns, the most interceptions. He's played a long time, and I relate to a guy. I never saw a shot. I didn't. I still hold the CYO record in Cumberland County for most missed attempts. I think made a few, but I
The guys
missed
at
a lot,
Midtown
too.
say you're still missing on a consistent basis.
I have no way to cross-reference that. One of my favorite all-time quotes comes from Roger Craig, who was a pitcher with the New York Mets in the '62 season when they were the worst team ever. Roger came out, he lost 22 games that year. He says, you have to be pretty good to lose 22 games.
Yeah.
Pretty much along the same page. It says they won't keep throwing you out there if you're to lose 22 games if you're not very good. Unfinished business when the original Rochester Press Box continues.
Tap into good times. The Distillery is your destination for great food, drinks, and sports viewing entertainment. Join us Sundays for our brunch menu starting at 11 a.m. featuring huevos rancheros, breakfast burrito, BLT fried egg sandwich, and the hangover frittata. Add to that 2 for $1 Bloody Marys and margaritas and great beer specials, and you have a winning combination. Sunday brunch at all 4 Distillery locations and thedistillery.com.
The Distillery.
Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box, Unfinished Business. John and his foot's asleep.
My foot has been asleep for a couple of minutes here. What has fantasy football done to me? I consider myself a family man, although my wife and I have yet to start our family. We want a fairly big one. And I always said growing up I wanted to be really good at 2 things. One was talking about sports on TV. Jury is still out on that. The other was being a father. Yet, there I was last week, first one to jump on the waiver wire and swoop up Adrian Peterson. Darren Sproles, Reggie Bush, they're not getting it done for me. And if Peterson's reinstated like the NFL Players Association is demanding, well, those points come playoff time could be nice for me. Now that said, I grew up in a disciplinary household, but I think most people would agree Adrian Peterson crossed a line. So, like it or not, don't be surprised if on Monday, come his reinstatement hearing with the NFL, the league says it's not quite ready for Adrian Peterson to return to football. And while it may hurt my fantasy team, I might agree with that.
What's your one-loss record?
7-3 right now. But I need, Bush is not getting it done. Darren Sproles, it was great the first couple of weeks, and he was good this week, but I got to have more running back support there.
We all do. Harry?
Well, I may be reaching the end with head coach Doug Marrone for the Bills. I know he's my personal assistant when he answers my phone calls during training camp, but I might have to make the break. It's the mindset that's starting to bother myself and I think a lot of Bills fans in his game plans on the scheme, on the overlooking of a football game. How aggressive are you going to be? What numbers in this analytic world are you going to use? Chip Kelly seems to pull from the right numbers. It's about speed. It's about aggressiveness. Chip Kelly's up 38-7 this week on Monday Night Football against the Panthers. He's throwing the ball everywhere. Bills are up in multiple games this year. The Dolphins, the Jets. It's run, pass. It's conservative. It's 4th and 1 plays near the middle of the field and not even considering a quarterback sneak. I'm reaching the end with head coach Doug Marrone. I hope he can finish this year off. I think if he gets to 10 wins, he saves his job. If not, I'm ready to say goodbye.
Not that there's a direct correlation or anything, but Jeff Mandela, the Victor High School football team, in his first possession in the Section 5 championship game against Pittsburgh, had 4th and 2 from his own 29 and went for it.
Yeah.
And he says it's just
That's
the way
Chip
we
Kelly
do
move.
things here.
Yeah, and it's funny that Chip Kelly, you mentioned Chip Kelly, because Chip Kelly had a big moment earlier this year in a game against Arizona, 4th and 1 down near the goal line, tie game where they could have gone up by 7, and he kicked the field goal and ended up losing the game late. So when he went against what you're thinking of taking those chances, it ended up costing him in the game. I'm going to switch from football a little bit and talk a little baseball, and I'm happy for somebody even though it's a loss for Rochester. Gene Glenn is getting his call up to the show. He's going to the major leagues, and I think we all agree, watching Gene, first of all, he's a good guy, but secondly, he's an excellent manager. He's been great for the Red Wings, and he's been great for the guys who go up to the Twins. Everybody likes him, but more importantly, they respect him. And yes, he interviewed for the job. Paul Molitor gets the job, but he's going up to Minnesota. He's a Minnesota State native. He's going back home there to be with that organization. He's done great things here. I think he'll do great things in Minnesota. And I think this could be, who knows, maybe a step towards him getting his own shot. I don't know if it would ever be with the Twins, but maybe even another organization. So good for Gene. Bad for Rochester, but the right thing happened.
He's such a throwback. I haven't seen, in all the years I've been watching the Rochester Red Wings play, and I go to a lot of games, a guy who likes to bunt and steal as much as he does, even if he doesn't have the perfect combination out there. It's always pushing the envelope.
And it's funny how that can really work with today's baseball when we're done trying to hit a 3-run home run every time somebody's up to the
Yeah,
plate.
but it's Royals. The Royals have changed it. I saw a tweet on a Chicago Bears website that said, Leo Lyons is a better coach than Mark Trestman. How great is that? The Chicago Bears, in case you missed it, lost back-to-back games this season by 50 or more points, or giving up 50 or more points in back-to-back games. The last time that had been done in the National Football League was in 1923 by the Rochester Jeffersons, founded by Leo Lyons, who was coaching that year. The Jeffersons lost their 2 games to the Chicago Cardinals 56-0, and then 60-0 to the Rock Island Independents. But for one shining moment, if you want to call it that, we owe the Chicago Bears a debt of thanks for making the Rochester Jeffersons relevant again.
Do you remember, though, early in that game against Chicago, he could have gone for it on 4th and 1, and he decided to punt, and Leo Lyons and his team were never the same.
I was going to say, you probably caught that one live right here.
Yeah, I covered it. I remember being in the line.
And Leo, I believe, is in the Hall of Fame, which is probably someplace Mark Trestman's never going to find himself either. You can find the original Rochester Press Box every Saturday night on Channel 13, and then again at Sunday leading into the football games on both WHAM TV and FOX Rochester. We'd like to thank you for watching. We also want to thank our brand new sponsor. We appreciate the distillery getting involved with the original Rochester Press Box. Guys, great job. Good to have you back, John.
Good to be back.
Mike.
Good to be here.
And Harry.
Thank you, Billy.
All righty. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week with the original Rochester Press Box.